Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Lieutenant Colonel David Waltman. I'm the Director of Personnel and Community Activities for Indiantown Gap. Pleased to be here this morning to give you a glimpse of what's going on back at the Gap. Introducing myself a little further, pleased to be with you, not only as a participant, but also as a member of the Chamber and as a homegrown resident of Lebanon County. I graduated from Cedar Crest High School. My parents from South Lebanon and Cornwall High Schools. Actually, my father graduated from Cedar Crest also. He received his diploma as part of the program that the state legislature signed and passed that allowed World War II serving soldiers that left high school to serve in World War II to receive their diplomas. So he did that. And as a resident of Lebanon, I have an interest and concern in the vibrant economy and growth of Lebanon. That's what I bring to Fort Indiantown Gap and to the county and to the neighboring municipalities which I engage with. I'll lead us through this forecast by explaining the basic structure of the National Guard. Pennsylvania National Guard and the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs highlight the economic impact and the expectations for the coming year. The bottom line up front, Fort Indiantown Gap will remain a key element in the economic health of Lebanon's broader community. The National Guard itself, it's 54 states and territories that have National Guards. The one right now that does not have a National Guard is American Samoa. Territories of Guam, Virgin Islands, Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, and the District of Columbia. We are part of the 7 reserve components of the Department of Defense. And the Pennsylvania National Guard receives its funding for its missions from the federal government, as we'll see. The Department of Military and Veterans Affairs at Fort Indiantown Gap. It's under the control of the governor when the forces and the soldiers and the airmen are not called into federal service. The examples that you'll see are in the past. The flooding, snowstorms, and we get called to other states. New Jersey and New York responded in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy and the recent storms that came up the coast. Our 2 missions, the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, there are over 1 million veterans in Pennsylvania. The Military Affairs Office, the Veterans Affairs Office, they're led by Brigadier General retired Jerry Beck. As a Deputy Adjutant General, has responsibility for that, serving those veterans with our 6 state homes that serve veterans across the state. We also have our federal mission for the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, and that's to prepare soldiers and airmen for combat and deployments around the world, responding to the call of the President. We provide trained personnel to support state and local authorities in those times of natural disaster. The Pennsylvania National Guard also has its joint staff, and that it responds to. As I said, it responds to a state mission under the call of the governor and to its federal mission under the call of the President of the United States. Since September 11, 2001, you can see we've spent a total of over 51,000 days on state active duty in support of the Commonwealth. Those storms that have come up to respond to large national events, the Republican National Committee, when it met here in Philadelphia, we responded to that. The G20 summit in Pittsburgh, we had soldiers in task forces in Pittsburgh, and 2 other national events in Pennsylvania. Your Pennsylvania National Guard is called to support. Also at Fort Indiantown Gap, some of the items that don't always appear or come to mind when you think of the National Guard. We do have a state partnership program. There's a vibrant Lithuanian community in Frackville, and Pennsylvania National Guard is a partner with the country of Lithuania. Began as one of the first partnerships with the Baltic states through the National Guard in developing and enhancing and leading those nations in developing their military forces. And they've achieved that and moved on to become full members of NATO. So we do have that continuing program, partnership with Lithuania. Lithuanian soldiers and officers come to Pennsylvania to train. We send forces from the Pennsylvania National Guard to Lithuania to train and advise and instruct and share information with them. And we participate in annual exercises with the European Command in the Baltic states. We also have our third civil support team, which is a 24/7 operation which provides first response to disasters. We also have that CERP, speaking acronyms, CBURN, there's an acronym within an acronym. CBURN, Enhanced Response Force Package, that's chemical, biological, radiology, and nuclear response force package. They assist and go in and secure an area and prepare it for forces that would follow on. We have a Homeland Response Force, which works within this region of FEMA in response. Anything that's needed, any natural disaster that's called upon, we have that Homeland Response Force. And then we have our Joint Emergency Operations Center at Fort Indiantown Gap, which 24/7 operation that works in close relationship with FEMA in responding to those natural disasters and events that are going on within the Commonwealth. So the Pennsylvania National Guard, what does it consist of? The Army National Guard consists of the 28th Infantry Division, the oldest continuous serving division within the Army. Proud history within the Hurricane Forest, remember, from World War II. The 20th Infantry Division, and then the 213th Regional Support Group, which is based in Allentown with units throughout the state. Authorized personal strength, over 15,000 within Pennsylvania. Our full-time staff, you see the number there, over 3,000 personnel full-time. And we are consistently one of the top and the largest Army National Guards within the nation, usually between Texas, California, and Pennsylvania, the top three, based on our structure as it fluctuates. Annual economic impact of the Pennsylvania Army National Guard, nearly $500 million. And I'll show those dollar figures and the impact of Lebanon County as we go on. Pennsylvania Air National Guard, you can see it consists of 3 wings based in Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, and in Willow Grove. Total authorized strength over 4,000, so the full strength of the Pennsylvania National Guard is over 19,000 airmen and soldiers. Full-time staff of the Pennsylvania Air National Guard, 1,100 airmen and officers. I always told the soldiers that in my command, when I spoke to them, I say, consider yourself one of the few privileged. There are over 12 million citizens of Pennsylvania, but only 19,000 are allowed to be in the Pennsylvania National Guard. So at Fort Indiantown Gap, what's happening back at the Gap? Growing up, living in Cornwall, occasionally we did hear artillery fire, and you could hear, oh, it's going on back at the Gap, and that's a common phrase that growing up you would hear, or those residents of Pennsylvania, of Lebanon County would hear, things are going on back at the Gap. So my intent today, this morning, is to hopefully take away an understanding of what that may be a sleeping giant, that economic element back northern part of the county, what it is and how you can be part of it. Second largest employer in Lebanon County. The federal government is considered the largest. That includes also the Lebanon VA Medical Center. Good Samaritan Hospital the second, but If you look at it and split us out from the Lebanon VA Medical Center, Fort Indiantown Gap, second largest employer in Lebanon County. We have over 2,000 full-time employees. About 5,000 part-time National Guard and other military members are assigned to Lebanon County. Economic impact, more than $500 million to the Lebanon County area. In training year 2014, which just ended, we trained more than 138,000 soldiers, airmen, sailors, Marines, local civilians, police forces. A lot of people trained at Fort Indiantown Gap. 710,000 training days. That's training day is defined as one person training one day. If that person trains another day, that's 2 training days. You add up those 138,000 individuals that came to Fort Indiantown Gap. Every time they train, it comes to 710,000 training days. We also have, in addition, is the Pennsylvania Counter Drug Task Force, trained over 12,000 students this past year, and that is law enforcement agencies that come to Fort Indiantown Gap, Lebanon County. The 166th Regiment is part of the Total Army Training System. Annual throughput is over 6,000 soldiers that come throughout the United States, come to Fort Indiantown Gap, Lebanon County, and train. So the economic impact, unlike in the active component where people move basically every 3 years, in the National Guard, usually stay put, pretty much permanently located. Those folks that are working at Fort Indiantown Gap usually spend 20 to 30 years in our units and in the community. Most of the people live in Lebanon and Dauphin County areas. So the total economic impact. On the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania itself, Pennsylvania National Guard and the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, $1.4 billion. The total economic impact of Lebanon County, Fort Indiantown Gap, and the Lebanon Armory unit there is nearly $600 million. That's everything that's coming into the county, Fort Indiantown Gap. Those salaries, the services that are needed by Fort Indiantown Gap and that armory, and the soldiers and airmen. About 40% of the budget, the economic impact on the Commonwealth, comes to Lebanon County. And we receive our funding from the federal government and the Pennsylvania budget. You can see for this next fiscal year that we're in the middle of here on the state side, $139 million. Now the bulk of that goes to the veterans' homes, serving those veterans. On the federal side, Fort Indiantown Gap is state property. It is leased to the federal government for $1 a year. And we receive from the federal government, as part of the National Guard, their responsibility is to provide funding to train the soldiers and airmen. So the bulk of our funding comes from the federal government. So the budget for Pennsylvania, you can know the cycle 1 July to 30 June. That cycle will continue. The federal government, the National Defense Authorization Act, and the appropriations were signed by the president, so the funding continues. We hear of sequestration, we hear of constrained budgets, but I can tell you, Fort Indiantown Gap will remain because of the vibrant use of that post and where it's located. We are the largest training center in the Northeast. We are the second largest training center in the terms of what I had said, 138,000 individuals training there, 710,000 man days. We're the second largest throughput in the United States in training centers. The only one that's larger than us is Camp Shelby, Mississippi. And the only reason is because It was serving as a mobilization platform for the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. As that mission declines, Fort Indiantown Gap will be the most active training center for the National Guard and Lebanon County, and see the impact of that. We wish to maintain that, to maintain relevance, to maintain our energy and the importance to Lebanon County. So we're going to work to maintain those things. In conclusion, Pennsylvania National Guard and Department of Military Veterans Affairs always meet statutory requirements. As I said, as you hear of sequestration, budget constraints, the National Guard will always meet its requirements to the Commonwealth and to the nation. As you see, the Fort Indiantown Gap is a key element of the economic health of Lebanon County and its aspects of employment, residency, contracting, and services required. I expect that role to continue long into the future and work to develop further cooperative relationships with municipalities and organizations, businesses, and citizens of Lebanon County. The takeaway I have for you is if I were sitting in your seat, I would want to know and find out how I can get a piece of that nearly $600 million of economic impact to Lebanon County. And in that line, I haven't mentioned to Greg, I'm working on a presentation. On March 12th, there'll be an Eggs and Issues, sponsored by the Lebanon Valley Chamber of Commerce. And the topics of presentation I'm working with the federal and the state sides at Indiantown Gap are doing business with Fort Indiantown Gap, the federal government, and how to do business with the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs on the state side. So I hope that you'll be able to join us at Fort Indiantown Gap and look through the chamber to become part of that presentation, Eggs and Issues, on March 12th. With that, thank you for the opportunity to be part of this forum.